The New York Giants just got a wave of great news. Let's talk about it. My name is Paul. This is Big Apple Sports. NFL season is finally upon us. A little over a week until we get to see the G-Men in action. Get hyped and take a quick second. Hit the subscribe button. I'm going to be talking Giants football all season long, so don't miss out. Subscribe, like, alerts, the whole 9 yards, because we're going to have a lot of fun watching Giants football together. So I don't even know where to begin with all these positive things I've seen with the Giants today, and I think we needed a fresh dose of positivity after, cut down day is always one of the hardest ones as an NFL fan, and I'm sure especially for these NFL teams and the families of the players who get cut. But before I dive into the great news, just wanted to get a shout out to our guy, Tommy Cutlets. Sounds like the New England Patriots scooped him up to be their backup. I know Patriots fans are pretty hyped about it. Guy was a very, very good and capable backup quarterback. And of course, he was a lot of fun to watch. And, everything with his agent and his Tommy Cutlets and his Italian mafia ties. It was just a lot of fun to have him. So shame to see him go to New England. Wish him nothing but the best. Let's dive on into the good news. So, starting with all the guys that were able to scoop up onto the practice squad, I was pretty pumped about, especially Turbo Miller was my number one guy. I said yesterday when they cut him that I really think I'd rather see him on the roster than Devin Singletary. He may not be as capable of taking over as a lead back if, like, Tyrone Tracy goes down, but I think there's a role for him as, like, a third down pass catching back that none of the guys on the roster are as good at as Dante Miller. He's super fast, had a great preseason, so happy to see he's sticking with the team. And same with Elijah Chapman. The fullback experiment with him in the preseason was both hilarious and, I feel like it was pretty successful. So I hope they're not giving up on that and that, he can develop more and maybe get a chance to play both D-line and fullback during the regular season. Moving on into more of the good news, we have Rashee Rice was just suspended for the first 6 games of the 2025 season. That is, of course, good news because as you can see right here, one of those games will be at your New York Giants. Originally, it kind of seemed like the talks of his suspension were going to get shelved, I think, until like September 30th or something, and people were wondering if he would be suspended starting in like week 5, which would mean the Giants would have to play him. So big time news that they came to an agreement on his suspension before the season, and now he's going to miss that Giants game. As I've talked about on this show, the Giants already are going to get a Commanders team who had a terrible preseason, and McLaurin sat out for a lot of it. He's going to play in that game, finally got his new deal, but who knows if he's going to be in football shape. Same thing with, I talked about Micah Parsons, still hasn't signed a deal. He's just sitting on the sidelines eating nachos and laying on the trainer's table and just being a headache for the Dallas Cowboys. Who knows if he's going to be playing in that Week 2 game, and if he is, he's certainly not going to be the best version of himself. And now, obviously, Week 3, the Chiefs are going to be without arguably their best receiver. Lord knows Travis Kelce's distracted. He's out getting engaged and hanging out with the Swifties. And, I know people are going to tell me, like, hey, forget about what the Giants' opponents are doing. The Giants just got to play their best ball. Yeah, for sure. And they're doing that. They crushed it this preseason. They're playing their best ball. They're firing on all cylinders. But me as a fan, I'm just sitting here and I'm like, hey, this team had a bad preseason. This team's going to be missing this guy. This team's going to be missing this guy. That's great for the Giants. I'm happy about it, so I'm going to celebrate it here on this channel. Moving on to some more good news. I promised a wave of good news, not just 1 or 2 bits. The Giants were able to scoop up a couple guys off of waivers. One is Baltimore Ravens safety Bo Brady. I've mentioned before, I am a Michigan fan. I love college football, and I remember watching Bo Brady at Maryland. The dude was a stud. The Ravens thought very highly of him. He had made the team last year, even though he was an undrafted rookie. They were hoping to be able to sign him to the practice squad and continue to develop him. Obviously, they don't have a huge need at safety right now. I think they just locked up Kyle Hamilton to a long-term deal. They're stacked at safety, but Giants are going to take advantage of that situation and bring in a good guy. And, I think if there's one part of this defense that I am a little nervous about, it's not the entire secondary, but the depth of the secondary. I think Paulson Adebo is going to be really good. I love Drew Phillips. I think he's in for a big year. But I worry one or two of these guys go down, and I worry what's behind them. So it's good to see them bringing up a promising safety to the team. And then they also brought in another member of the secondary, Rico Payton from the New Orleans Saints. It sounds like Joe Scone and the personnel staff had been eyeing him on the Saints last preseason, hoping that the Saints would cut him, and the Saints chose to hang on to him and develop him. And a year later, they finally do part ways with him, and the Giants have scooped him up. And as I said, it's just more depth to a unit that could definitely use it. I think it's going to be a solid unit if they can stay healthy, but it never hurts to have good young talent coming in off the bench if need be. And then, as I've said on this show a few times, the secondary doesn't need to be perfect. This defensive line is so good. They're going to overwhelm offensive lines. And receivers aren't going to be having a whole lot of time to get open. These corners and safeties are going to have to cover for 2 seconds. And the quarterback is going to be on his back or running for his life from Dexter Lawrence and Abdul Carter and Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau, and the list goes on and on and on. So secondary just needs to hold up. I think as long as they stay healthy, they're going to be more than holding up. I really like Adebo and Drew Phillips, but doesn't hurt to bring in some extra talent. Giants fans, as always, I would love to hear from you. Which one of these moves were you most excited about? Who is your guy who is signed to the practice squad that you're most excited about? And who is the guy who the Giants have lost who you were most disappointed in? Obviously, I think a lot of people are going to say Tommy Devito, even though I do think that was the right call. It sounds like maybe Greg Dulcich is going to the Dolphins. Originally, it was being reported the Giants had brought him to the practice squad, but now, I don't know, it seems like maybe he's going to be a Dolphin. I'm sure we'll get a little more clarity on that. But if he's gone, that's probably the guy I'm the saddest to see. I thought he was super talented. And then, trying to think who else. It did pain me to see, I think Gunnar Olszewski was let go today to bring in Bo Brady and Rico Payton. So I thought he did a really good job in the preseason. I'd love if he could get added to the practice squad, but sad to see him go too. Giants fans, you let me know who you're sad to see go, who you're happy to see brought back in. And as always, just hit the subscribe button on the way out. It does me a huge solid, and we have a lot more Giants content coming this season, so don't miss out.